Alrighty. Okay, we've done the pledge. Everyone, we've been in exec session for quite a while. We had an extended session of work that we had to do. We appreciate your patience. We appreciate the patience on the board as we had to do that work. And if we do have modifications to the agenda, now would be the time to hear that.
You're going to have one edition of a supplemental resolution. Folks, you have two in front of you. Turn the one that's a single one upside down. We're not going to be doing that tonight. It's the one that's the double. We'll be adding that to the agenda. I don't know where you want to put that.
I would probably go at the end, but you're making the motion, Brad.
So. All right, so we'll put that after all of the policy pieces. So it'll be double. Let's see, we've got A through Z on the policies.
Well,
so
we're going to be Z in the alphabet.
We're going to be double A now?
Yeah,
I guess it'll be double A.
Yeah. Okay, double A.
Double A.
It's nice from.
If I'm reading that, how this is laid out, yes.
Yep, because we have very good to do. Hearing from the public, always glad to do that. And Pat, Eric did sign up. Others, you can speak, but Pat's first.
Thank you. In September 2012, New Roots Charter School filed a report with their chartering agency, claiming that its performance on Regents test scores and graduation rates in 2012 far exceeded the performance of ICSD and all other districts in this area. In the interest of true accountability and full transparency, several concerned citizens have collected and reviewed data used in this report. And to no surprise to many of us here tonight, that report misrepresents the actual academic comparison of New Roots to ICSD and surrounding districts. As a result of our preliminary findings, a formal complaint has been filed with the New Roots Board of Trustees requesting that the report be vetted for accuracy and revised accordingly. Some of the findings of our review are that New Roots underrepresented the size of their 2008 cohort graduating in 2012. They failed to follow guidelines outlined by NICED when counting members of that cohort. They failed to properly calculate the school's performance index throughout the report. They failed to verify information about the ICSD adjusted performance rate. And the trend continues. In May of 2009, Tina Nielsen-Hodges publicly promised that 100% of students would graduate from New Roots with a Regents diploma. The practice of removing students from its 2013 graduating class cohort at the 11th hour is happening as we speak. As recently as this March, seniors are returning to ICSD, likely because they will not be able to graduate from New Roots with a Regents diploma this June. For years, New Roots has collected tuition from ICSD for educating those very students that now return to us 2 months before their scheduled graduation. Less than half of the students from ICSD who attended New Roots at some point in their academic career graduated with their class in 2012. 2013 looks to be no exception. So I ask the board tonight, why would ICSD want to offer New Roots further support in attracting students away from our district when it has failed so many of our students already? ICSD has been forced to cut programs for students who remain in our district to accommodate the $1 million we send to New Roots every year. Any sign of support for New Roots will undermine efforts to challenge the renewal of its charter this summer. It will send a signal to New York State that New Roots is successful in the eyes of our school district and that our district is embracing the school as a member of our school community, which it is not. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Anyone else? Very good. I don't see anyone. So on to student reps. Elise, yes. Go ahead.
All right. Let's see. So I guess one of the major things that happened yesterday and the night before was at ACS we have a tradition of the seniors doing an April Fool's sleepover and prank on the school. And I guess
I'm worried already, but go ahead.
Don't worry, nothing bad happened. I just wanted to convey the fact that it was a very interesting bonding time for all the seniors. They had a great time. We're still picking up all the toilet paper they threw. No, that was last year. But actually, there was. I heard it through the grapevine that even our great Principal Joe spent the night over and was the supervisor for that. And so I just wanted to thank him for having taken that time. This Saturday evening, there will be a Spanish, we have a Spanish trip going on this year, and they're hosting a dinner Saturday evening. It's $6 for children, $8 or under, excuse me, $8 for students and $10 for adults. I do not have the full menu with me, but it sounds like it will be a very good dinner. Let me think. Next Friday, our mock trial team is going to have its first official competition, and I believe it is against IHS, so may the best team win. And other than that, the only real big thing is fourth cycle has started for ACS, and which means a lot of our trips have begun our planning process, and so there's a lot of fundraising to come.
Excellent, very good. Ithaca High?
Our Code Red Robotics team won the Buckeye Regional Competition, and that was against 53 teams, and they advanced to the World Championships in St. Louis, Missouri from April 24th to April 27th. So it was a great achievement. This month is Poetry Month, so on the announcements, almost every morning someone from the school community will read poetry. Today it was Mr. Anderson. And next week is Math Awareness Week, and that's where they announce a problem a day for a math problem a day. And students can enter on slips at the main office, I believe, and they can enter to win a t-shirt. And there were also 2 spring break trips sponsored by the school. One went to Paris, one went to Ghana. I was lucky enough to attend the one going to Paris, and it was a great experience.
The IHS Spring Musical, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, will be performed in Culp April 19th through the 21st. DASA packets were handed out in all social studies classes yesterday, although there were mixed givings by the teachers. Some teachers just gave them out, and some teachers did the full explanation. Juniors and seniors and some sophomores will be gearing up for AP tests, which start in a couple weeks. And in sports, Lindsay Biondi got her 300th career goal for women's lacrosse, so that's a great accomplishment for her.
The marking period ends on Friday, so we're 3/4 of the way through the school year this Friday, which is exciting for some of us and sad for others. College acceptances are out, so people now know where they'll be going to school or are in the process of deciding between a few options. And as a senior, I just really want to take a moment to thank all the teachers that I've had through my really whole school career. And I think a lot of seniors would agree with me in really thanking our teachers for getting us to the point where we are now.
Well said, Michael. Appreciate that. Anything else? Eldred? The other guy's done, so Eldred's going to respond. Go ahead.
Just a question. And the seniors sitting here will be going where?
Ooh, pressure. Better question, when do seniors have to make a final decision?
By May 1st.
I thought that was perhaps. So Eldred, wait until... okay. See how I tried to intervene, Michael, just to give you guys... okay, all right.
I think he may have wanted to speak.
Did I miss the public statement?
Oh, I was pretty clear, but...
It just went by me so fast.
We're just trying to move things along. But I'll give you... Anyone else board responses at this point to...
I'll wait.
Okay.
I have one.
Okay, so go ahead.
Thank you.
And your name would be...
My name is Bruce Lane, and I'm the parent of 2 kids who have traversed Caroline, DeWitt, and Ithaca High School, and 2 kids aged 12 and 14 who are currently at Elizabeth Ann Clune Montessori School and aimed squarely at Ithaca High School. I'm here to support the changing of policy 1743 to allow the participation of non-public school students in the Ithaca City School District's modified sports program. To clarify my understanding of this issue, I spoke by telephone with Bob Hess at the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, and he indicated that my Andy and the few other EAC Montessori kids in question would not be bona fide students under the commissioner's rules, and I do understand that. In order to proceed, he indicated that the Montessori board could request of the Ithaca City School Board that we jointly petition Section 4 of the Athletic Association to merge for this sports purpose. If both boards agreed to petition the section, then we can apply for a merger for each of the sports in question. If granted, then the merger would take place. Our kids could overcome the bona fide student rule and then could participate in modified sports. Montessori would also have to become a dues-paying athletic association member, which it is prepared to do, and provide proper insurance coverage, again, which it is prepared to do. So there's a method to allow our kids to participate in modified sports, but it requires the district's active participation in this merger petition process. Will the ICSD board agree to do that for our kids? This sort of cooperation between our school and the district seems to have operated well for a number of years. It yielded and could yield again the important benefit of providing a socializing mechanism for our kids as they enter into high school. These are motivated kids and participating parents. You can find us already well engaged with the district and the public schools on a number of levels. I'm asking for a commitment from the school board to help the few Montessori kids who each year could participate if we return to the cooperative approach of years past. Thank you.
Thanks. Now, Rick.
I want to follow up on one of the things that Pat and Eric said, and I'd like to have you report back to us at the next meeting, Dr. Brown, if you would. Are we actually receiving students this late in the school year, especially seniors, and how many? I mean, are they actually pushing students out at this point with graduation looming just a couple months away? I'd like to know if that's actually the case and how many they're going. And then just to respond to, support from the school district, I don't think there's been any overt support from this school district. We've done what is legally required, and I don't believe we've done anything other than that. What's legally required is in regards to new routes. So I don't feel like we're providing any additional support. I would like to know if they are in fact manipulating the data. I think that's important for their chartering agency to know, though I believe the politics are such that their chartering agency will renew that charter without regard to what's happening to children.
But we were given a bill, and we were obligated to also provide nurse, transportation, et cetera. We have to, as a home district, we provide services to the students. It would be nice that if we just want the students to graduate, but anyway. But we'll get information back, so that would be great. Anything else? Certainly highly recommend that people go to the musicals, go to the shows and the performing arts. I always thought How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying was my life story, but I didn't know they turned it into a musical, but yes, they did a long time ago. But it's always great fun and great talent on display. So that's coming up. When is it? This week? Next week?
Next week, the next week to the 21st.
19th. Very good. So thanks. If we're good, we'll keep moving on. Thanks, everyone.
I'll move the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second by Pat, somewhat limited. There is a personnel report. Any questions at this point? If there are no questions, comments, all in favor? That's going to be everyone. We are minus Seth Peacock and Jay True that are traveling, but we do have our 7 with us tonight. So I think we're on. Dr. Brown to Superintendent's report.
And the student highlights I was going to share have been mentioned already. I just wanted to just talk about how much is happening here in April in this district. Everything from the student performances, the musicals, to the athletic performances that are happening every day, to what's being written. Being the slow person I am, I picked up the tablet on April 1st, not thinking about it being an April Fool's version. And halfway through, I thought, this can't be true. Particularly the part about Jared creating a new position, like, that guy is out of the plan. But That speaks to how well it was written.
The fact that it's upside, the title's
Come on,
upside
it was-
down, Dr.
At the
Brown.
end of the day, I'm picking up, oh, a new version, and people were letting me read this thing.
We do read the Tatler, guys, so it's
Well written,
Yeah.
regardless of whether or not it's true or not.
Yeah.
It had me believing it halfway through. But again, I continue to be impressed by young people every day. Another example, as you look at the student reps on the board, today they have a new device. They have iPads like you, and actually accessing the Dropbox like the public. Now, they have these tools because they did what staff is doing now, and the transformation that's happening in our district. They're using verbs to speak about what they wish to use and do versus a noun. It would have been easy for them over the last 2 years, and I would have given them one 2 years ago, to say, I need an iPad to be like everyone else. They didn't. The email came from them to me, speaking about how they want to collaborate, produce, create, and do. And with technology implementation, if we focus on the verbs, the nouns will always take care of themselves. And they have these devices now, and they're already working and communicating and tweeting and doing all the great things that we want young people and adults to do because they understand that. That's what's happening in the district. We spent 2.5 years of building around the verbs and supporting that through staff development, through conversations, through change. And now we're seeing what happens when we can provide the kind of tools. Thank you for your support to provide these kind of tools for young people and adults. That was all, just a student highlights. I'm just impressed and having fun every day.
Well, that's great, Dr. Brown. Is there anything else, Dr. Brown, that
Well, we'll talk budget in a minute.
we are going to talk about budget? If you have nothing else, we will get to item A of the school district business, and that is the adoption of the 2013-14 budget. But before we do that, we do need to talk about some information from the state and what we've done over the past few weeks.
And there have been some revisions. Folks may have heard through the media or and from other sources about the additional state aid that has been provided to the school district. So I wish to share some updated information, what we know as of this point, and how that's going to impact our recommendation for funding request for the Board of Education, and hope that you will approve tonight. So, in fact, this will work here. The state aid increase that we shared with the community and you several weeks ago looked like a $450,000 increase from year to year. With the new projections, we're anticipating it. Oh, let me go back. The state aid increase overall is $787,000 in total. We're looking at about $655,000 of new dollars right now to add to the budget, which has changed the bottom line for the overall number. So that number was $110 million before. It's now 111, 151, 722. The pie chart that we shared, and we talked about how the increases in instruction went from 65 to 70. Well, the recommendation we have before you will keep that instructional line going up. It's at 69%. Some of the things that we're going to be recommending we do with the additional dollars are in the operations and maintenance place. So that number went up from 5% to 6%. So I mean to say this chart is the same, pretty much the same as what you saw before as far as the ratios. But that dollar amount, the number that you're approving tonight, is a bit different than the one we shared before. It's $111 million. The chart that we shared in the budget mailer, the one that generated a lot of conversations last year, has shifted just a bit, but the ratios are pretty much the same. You'll see that the administration cost, the total dollar amount, is down from year to year. What you'll see is the total budget number, that $111 million we shared at the last meeting. That was a 2.5% increase from year to year. With the additional dollars that are coming in from state aid, it's going to be a 3% budget increase from year to year. We'll be fixing that out. So the recommendations we have on the table that we wish for the board to consider with the additional dollars, around $655,000 or so that we have, that is going to be some not new dollars but revised money from the state. First, we're recommending that we put some of that money to reduce the tax levy increase. We shared at the last meeting that we're proposing a tax levy increase of 2.9%. We're now proposing using about $205,000 of the additional dollars to bring that tax levy increase down to 2.7%, which in turn will mean that the tax rate will be less than 1%, will be at 0.07.
I think it's actually 0.7.
Oh, wow, is that a typo? It is 0.7.
It may eventually indeed be
That would
that.
have been nice.
It may be that, actually, because
And
last
Brad
year...
caught it before Sean.
I can't see the chairs.
That's even more impressive.
Sean's getting coffee, so, you know.
So 0.7. for everyone watching at home or wherever you're watching from, it's a 0.7% tax rate increase.
Can you say that again? Can you just say that again for the television to make sure people understand what is happening?
2 points, we're lowering the tax levy, which was 2.9%. We're looking at 2.7% increase. And the tax rate, what that would actually look like in the tax bills will be less than a 1% increase, a 0.7% increase.
And again, to point out, when we did this last year at this time, our estimate of what the tax rate would be was higher than what it eventually was. So again, we are estimating future rates that will be set. But you're not supposed to drop your electronic device.
You're not comfortable about sitting those home, yeah.
I just,
Okay, all right.
Just respond. Anyway, but to your point.
So that's what we're recommending as far as how to use it. $205,000 of that money to lower the tax burden on our community. We're recommending that we put $140,000 and $140,258 into fund balance. And we know we need to fund our capital improvement line item next year, so allowing that cushion there is something that we're proposing and recommending. In addition to the reducing the tax levy and the fund balance, we're actually looking to expand what is now in the budget as an innovation grant line. What we funded in the past, and this year, what we funded out of that line have been things such as the Student Athlete First program, other programs, student programs that we've used and put in place on a pilot or trial basis to see if it would increase student achievement, and we're seeing some results. All things that go through this innovation line, for us, we put through a project charter process. We ask for what are the goals for the program, what achievement results are we expecting to have happen, who a person of responsibility for a particular task. And after filling that chart out, we ask folks to talk about the data and what actual achievement results we're seeing through the innovation. So every program that we put in, that has gone through this line or that process, have been able to produce some achievement results. We're asking the board to allow us to use some dollars to expand that innovation grant program. Again, we're looking to add $300,000 to it for next year to do the things I'm going to talk about now. At some point, I wish, well, I guess I'm going public right now, but I wish for us all to adopt some metrics. We've talked about metrics this year. Two other key metrics that we're thinking about as staff, we want our community to think about is what would it look like if we had an organization or a school district that had 100% graduation rates. Not only that, had every child reading on grade level by the end of third grade. Two key metrics that I feel and research will support, and best practice will the places that have done that. It takes care of everything else. But to do something like that, put those metrics out there, and to achieve them, many structures need to be put into place. We're proposing some pilot/innovations that we think can help us meet both of those metrics if we come out and we adopt it as something we want to really go after hard. For example, some things we're proposing tonight, preschool program additions. And not only adding preschool classrooms, we're looking to add 2 classrooms, but looking at how we deliver those preschool services differently. Maybe the staffing configurations or the actual physical locations. We haven't fleshed that out completely, but we're thinking to move forward with doing 2 classrooms and start planning for what that will look like next year. Each classroom will cost us approximately $80,000, so $160,000 we're thinking to expand our preschool program. Again, to hopefully get at having all young people read on grade level by the end of third grade, and then also enhancing our graduation rate. The middle college high school program, we're fortunate to have Dr. Bruce Jawo, who's joined our staff in the last few months. She did her doctoral work around middle college high school programs. Something, and we may call it something different, but what we know is we have young people at our high schools that may want to look at a different experience. That may not be, I'm going to take 6 AP courses, or I'm going to be at the high school for 8 hours or 6 hours a day, just taking a regular 9-period day. What would it look like to probably have a virtual experience or a hybrid approach where you're actually on the TC3's campus for a while? What we know is we've heard from the folks at TC3, and there's some monies coming down from the federal government for them to partner with school districts to talk about what it would look like to have a different program, or to partner with the school district to offer some things. So we're looking to maybe use some monies to engage in that conversation, maybe do some pilot, and to work through what that would look like. But again, very early. We haven't had many conversations with Jared Powell or any other folks at high school about what this would look like, but we want to engage in those conversations in the coming weeks and months. An early world language immersion program. elementary world language. And I have elementary here, but we know we need to do some things at the middle school and high school level too. We talk often about what it would look like to have our young people all bilingual or trilingual. It would be great to say in the near future that young people coming into kindergarten, by the time they graduate, they will be bilingual or trilingual. So there's a structure that we need to be put into place. And we know there's some great elementary world language immersion programs that are happening in this country, in this state. We want to take an opportunity to study some of those and maybe even pilot some things if possible. So we're asking about $50,000 or so that money go towards that pilot and that study program. And then this last one here, contemporary learning spaces. We know the research is very clear, best practices are very clear, and then some of the feedback I'm receiving from staff is speaking to us, looking at our learning spaces. And she said I could share her name and the example. We have a teacher, Miss Levine, and she's been here a long, long time. And she wrote me last week to speak to me. She said she was on IC's campus, and she was in one of those contemporary learning spaces. And she talked about how her learning experience was so different, having been in that space. Everything from the paint colors, to the furniture, to the tools she had access to. So it had that kind of an impact on her. And then she asked me, what are y'all going to start doing about learning spaces? And fortunately, that night I was in front of the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, the Finance and Facilities Committee talking about what we were thinking about as far as learning spaces. We have engaged in some conversations about what this will look like. We want to do some different things in some spaces next year, including the staff development room, and everything from paint colors to furniture to the tools that will be available to our staff and young people. We want to move forward. So we're thinking that for about $50,000, we can do some pretty cool things and innovative things to be a model, and then look to grow that in time. So I just shared some innovations, some things that we want to think about, talk about, pilot, work towards as far as innovations. We will put them through a project charter process. We will show the type of achievement gains that they can produce, and in some cases, hopefully will produce, if we do some true pilots next year. That was a lot pretty fast, but I wanted to just put it out there as far as what we're recommending to use those additional dollars that we're seeing from the state come in.
Do you want questions as we go through, or?
Oh, yes, I'm done now.
Okay, you're all done. Questions for Dr. Brown? Michael, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment on the middle high school college program that you're proposing. I think that's a great idea. I know that a lot of kids are interested in taking college level courses, whether it's at Cornell, IC, or TC3, but there is a cost associated with it. And I know that for some people that I know who were interested, the cost was prohibitive in their doing that. So I think any partnership that you can work out with TC3, Cornell, IC, any of our local institutions of higher learning would be really beneficial to the student body. So I thank you for bringing that up.
And we'd also, on that subject, I guess the board would be interested in ensuring that the program was not highlighted toward, but certainly expanded to groups in the high school that may feel that I'm not APs it's not an area I want to go, or perhaps an idea that I'm not sure I can do college material, but reinforcing yes, indeed you can do that, because I think you know what I'm saying. But it's this may not be for, as you said, the 6 AP, the trying to accumulate as much AP credit as possible, really as entry to an institution, not really for credit in college. For a lot of kids, that's what we have to take in order to get where we want to go. But for others, that's not. There needs to be another pathway, and I think that's certainly what I would be interested in exploring that way. And I'll just switch and go to the pre-K. Some of the proposals that you have are studies. Some of them are pilot projects that will be looked at, and that's what the funding is for.
Yeah.
Is the pre-K, are you indeed looking to add students this next year?
And what we know is we have a waiting list for pre-K of over 100 students. We're looking to reduce that as part of this initiative. So yes, we're looking to add 2 classrooms with young people.
4-year-olds?
4-year-olds, yeah.
Okay.
And that would be for this next school year, and also looking at more innovation within the pre-K curriculum.
Yeah.
All right. Just trying to be,
Yeah, thank you.
just trying to be clear in my mind, which is tough for me. So, other,
I do.
yeah, Judy. go ahead.
I think all of these are great. I just worry, as the newspaper worried, if we get increased aid this year and we put all these things in and they all do well, and we don't get increased aid next year, that we will have to come up with money to keep these.
And that goes back to our philosophy. We're here to build programs to meet the needs of our learners. If we do these well, if we build our budget to put things in that work, we continue to look for efficiencies. That's what we do. So as opposed to this going away because we run out of money, if it works like we think it's going to work, this is what we do. So it's just a completely different way of looking at it if we monitor the achievement results based on it.
Other questions? And Dr. Brown, I'm going to go back to the tax levy.
Yes.
When we did get the aid increase, we have a tax levy limit that is calculated through our budget process, through the state processes. That does not change our tax levy limit at all, correct?
No, sir.
Right, Margaret. I mean, we did that
Does not
calculation.
change that.
Right. It doesn't change that at all. Our tax levy limit, as calculated, Margaret, was 6.09, correct?
Correct. It's just that we came down a little further under that.
Right. I mean, that was my point. I mean, our tax levy limit for this district for this year is 6.09. So we are actually we're less than half of what our tax levy limit is at that 2.7. So as a board, certainly we can discuss that 2.7, that tax levy, proposed tax levy. And certainly we've done that. In finance, we certainly have an opportunity to do that here. It can be lower, it can be higher. But anything over 6.09, we need a 60% approval from the community. We are not asking that. We're actually less than half of what our tax levy limit is. But that goes a little bit, Judy, I guess, to the sustainability of programs.
So we're going to have that.
So I'm not sure what
You don't want to.
yeah, I'm not sure we want to go there. So other questions, comments?
Just a comment, I was able to have a portion of these conversations during the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, so just want to say that my continued support with Judy's caveat noted the fact that these are not sustainable programs, at least because they're currently not budget items, but with Dr. Brown's idea that if they work well, then they become sustainable because it's just what we do. But the investment into our youngest students in particular, I think, is money well served. And so to provide additional pre-K classrooms and the goal of eventually maybe having even a conversation about what it might look like, but having third graders read at or above grade level is something that we need to sort of rally around and find ways to be innovative to make that happen. I also expressed to Dr. Brown as well how much I support the exploration of different classroom designs, and that at least there's a little bit of research that I've been able to do continues to talk about research classroom space and its current design as being lacking, and that there are some real opportunities here to do some innovative things and to engage the minds of young folks in different ways. So looking forward to watching that work go forward.
And it would be interesting to see what that redesign looks like. Go ahead, Eldred.
He's going to be mad.
So this is what it looks like to begin building the district reform. And we had talked about that years ago. Now we're beginning to actually execute. It feels good to be undertaking the process, the budget process that gets us here, as opposed to many of you remember 3 or 4 years ago, we were literally sitting and arguing about $7,000 for this or that. So all the hard work from the folks in finance to understand what every dime is, to Dr. Brown, convincing the staff, all of the staff and us, that it's better to educate every child as an opportunity. And now it's a new position. It feels very good to be in this position, and I can't wait to see this work continue.
Any other questions, comments? Go Go ahead, Brad.
I'll move the resolution that the final budget for the Ithaca City School District for the fiscal year 2013-2014 be hereby adopted by the Board of Education in the amount of $111,151,721.
Second.
Second by Judy. Motion is on the table. Any questions, comments? Other than my comment every year, why is it $1 at the end and not 0 or, but I'm okay.
We round up.
They're just not rounding people.
Yeah, it's just, in a $111 million budget, I'm not sure what that last little dollar does, but by God, it's going to be.
Well, what
it's
about
gonna
the
be-
72
We do it now
cents?
just to get at you because you have the same question every year.
So it will be well spent by the district, but it is, as we talked about this, we do a year-round budget process and money flows, and we try to explain how it does flow throughout the year, and we do need to adopt a budget at this time of year, and so we can continue the work and planning, and then the work obviously as we keep going. And it is a concrete budget number, but as we talked about, Brad, you said it, just because we have the budget, that does not mean we are in stasis all year round, the rest of the year. We adjust, we adapt. Right, Dr. Brown? I mean, that's...
Change is necessary.
We can't sit still for a whole year, basically, so we have to constantly be aware of how we spend the community's money. This is the community's money, whether it's the state aid coming back, that's still taxpayer dollars, and we ask a lot of our community because we do not get much in state aid relative to other districts in our area. So we are community-based. This is really a community-supported system as opposed to a state-supported system. So we appreciate that. Any other questions regarding this? Once we pass it, that's the number, Dr. Brown. The top line number is set. So it's been moved and seconded. Any other comments, questions? So all in favor? That will be everyone minus Seth and Jay, who are absent. So, Dr. Brown, there you go. And I would want to be clear, we did pass the other resolutions for the capital reserve and how we were going to spend the capital reserve, correct? That was...
Right. So there'll be two other, when people vote, they'll see three propositions. The first proposition will be the budget. The second proposition will be an expenditure from is it the 2007, Margaret? 2008? 2007.
I'm sorry.
Which capital reserve? 2007? 10? 10. Be an expenditure from the 2010 capital reserve. That's to purchase buses, some maintenance vehicles, and do some other maintenance work at the district. And then we'll be asking the public to create the 2013 capital reserve. It's up to a maximum of $5 million, but there'll be no money placed in it initially. It's just to create the reserve. So that'll be the third proposition.
Very good, thanks. Thanks, Brad. Jay True just arrived and unfortunately just missed the budget vote.
Yeah.
That's in abstention. Okay. If I could read this, that would be great. Item B, but Brad, go ahead.
I'll move item B is presented. The clerk needs to fill in be it resolved that it's the Ithaca City School District. Not sure why that was left blank. And I should wait for it to be seconded now.
Well, what's the resolution, Brad?
The resolution regarding the tentative administrative budget for the Tompkins Seneca Tioga Board of Cooperative Educational Services.
There we go. Second by Pat. Very good.
And I'll just speak, if I can just speak to it briefly, each of the component districts. It's a fascinating process. We're asked to approve the administrative budget and nothing else if OC's on their budget. And so it's before you, $3,341,000 is their number for administration. I think we've seen the numbers previously on that. And we do it annually, as do all the other component districts.
And the information from BOCES is readily available. Sometimes they come and they'll...
They sent us all that book. They're not online yet. We all got a booklet.
Right. So, if there are no other questions, all in favor? That's going to be everyone, including Jay. And item C is another resolution.
I'll move item C, resolution regarding the election of members to the Board of Cooperative Educational Services. And just note that in the fourth whereas, we need to fill in Ithaca City School District, and then be it resolved just beyond that, that it's also the Ithaca City School District. And
I'll second.
Second by Pat, and you can see the nominees to serve.
And these are representatives from other school districts. We're approving their choices.
Throughout the BOCES.
From Candor, Dryden, George Junior Republic, and Trumansburg.
Exactly. Douglas Ann Land taking on another duty.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Congratulations to Doug. Any other questions? Without comments, all in favor? That's everyone again. And are we good? Is it the bottom? What's a ballot on the X? Are we good?
D now.
So
I'll move item D, adoption of the school calendar for 2013-2014. It's in our Dropbox.
Right. Second? Second by Chris.
Would you like for one of us? Yeah.
Give us the highs and lows.
Yeah. Mr. Van Kuren, you're up. Calendar. Keep it moving so quick.
So Bob's the calendar guy now?
Oh, yeah.
Is this the same calendar? Bob, is this the same calendar that we've looked at multiple times, or is it a different calendar?
No, this is the new calendar. This is next year's. Hopefully you won't have to look at it again. Just two quick things. One, I worked with a couple different folks to generate this from the community, a parent representative and a member of the faith community to take into account the various needs of our constituencies. First thing to point out is that students will be starting the week after Labor Day, not the week of Labor Day. We'll have 2 PLC days that week, and then the students will start the week after. And the February break, which was 3 days this current school year, is going to be the full week again next year. So
Trying to make friends.
trying to make friends, trying to be happy.
Starting school, actual school, September 10th seems a little late, Bob, but
September 9th.
9th, 10th, okay.
But notice that it doesn't wrap up until late either. The Regents exams stretch it out to where commencement will be on the 26th of June.
And that's what we want?
This year it was the 21st.
Oh, that's a,
Well, I'm not still going to school, so I guess that's...
Anything in June is late.
ITA is signed off on this.
Sean, go ahead.
So that was my question. One was about ITA, so you had conversation with them, and you had conversation with members of the faith community as well?
That's in part why we're starting.
Rosh Hashanah is very early this year.
Great.
And the other phase as well, hopefully we're...
show up? Is that a little different?
Third and fourth.
How you guys doing over there?
Don't leave that, Bob.
Rosh Hashanah.
So we're doing that now.
But we've got, okay.
So is that going to be like a permanent thing?
Deal with it next year.
Yeah, year to year.
So I'm just just my comment is, this year kids lost a chunk of their winter break, and here we have a new holiday in September and are starting later and get the full week in February and the full week in April. How do you do it, Dr. Brown?
In one of those magical years that everything fell into place.
Okay, it's the date of the Regents that's just later, so you have that
That's part
flexibility?
of it, but you'll notice that that winter break and that spring break every 4 or 5 years it happens to be this. I mean, it's easier to work. I don't know why, I don't know how it happens, but as an educator, every 4 or 5 years it just always works in that way. I wish I could take much more credit for it, but I can't. It's just how the calendar falls.
Well, it's
An extra week of summer for our children.
well, I'm looking at it probably the other way.
It's an extra week of summer this summer.
Right.
Yeah, but next summer, I wasn't going to go that far, Pat. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You pay at some point.
That's the line, the party line.
It no longer affects me personally.
Glad we pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. I think we're gonna go. It's been moved. Second, all in favor. And if I thought this was the only time I was gonna vote on this, I would be happy. But it's approved by all.
Oh, come on.
And we're going to move on, and we will get into policies, and Sean is going to bring us home on the 1000 series policies.
I hope so anyway. So the policy committee met on, was it Monday? Policy committee members, was it last week? It was Thursday of last week, Thursday or Wednesday. And went through all of the recommendations from our first readings, asked some additional questions of not only NISBA, but BS and K, and have presented the policies as they are in front of you. And so the goal is to go down one by one, and people can ask whatever questions, and we'll offer whatever clarifying remarks we have from there. And so I move policy 1000, community relations goals, as is for a second reading and adoption.
Second.
Second by Pat. Policies are in your Dropbox, and for the meeting tonight, it is there. Then we will follow along as you will. Any questions?
Is that an editorial comment?
Did you see that?
Is that my outside?
Are we good?
Or you might wait a second.
Well, is Chris coming back
He is coming back.
soon?
No, you're a policy, so yeah.
Okay. So there's many opportunities for Chris to vote tonight. So all in favor? That is everyone minus Chris, Malcolm, and who else?
Seth.
Seth, yes, Seth. Okay. On to the next.
I move policy 1050, annual district election and budget vote for a second reading and adoption.
Second.
Second by Judy. Just to be clear, Sean, any edits that have
On this
occurred
one, yes.
are the edits have been completed in policy as we see it in our Dropboxes.
These are the most updated and edited versions of the policy. On this one, between the first reading and the second reading, we added a short phrase in the second paragraph where it says the first publication of this notice shall be at least 45 days, but no sooner than 49 days. We added a no sooner than 49 days to stay consistent with the law.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, all right. Is there
Go ahead,
question?
Brad.
Is there some sort of a pagination problem?
Could be in Dropbox if you're looking at it.
I mean, I'm looking at under propositions number 2. It speaks to 30 days and 70 days, and it seems inconsistent with itself. But you have to. I'm not as familiar with it.
Oh, what I think it's trying to indicate, Brad, and we had some conversation about this, and so the idea of petitions we went through with BSNK, and this is, we already have a policy in the book about petitions, and so this is sort of, we're collapsing 2 policies into one in this regard. But the way in which I think it's written is that except for petitions related to a proposition which must include notice on the annual election, if it's then it needs 70 days, otherwise it's 30 days. And it may be poorly written and we can reframe that, but that's, okay, that was the hint there. We did have some questions about 100 signatures. The law does, I don't think, if I recall correctly, the law does not give a minimum. It's what the board feels to be reasonable. We don't know if we felt that was reasonable or not. It's what we require for to run for the board, and so we thought we'd keep it consistent in that way.
A local decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to Google pagination when I'm done, but that's okay. Any other questions? All in favor? That's gonna be everyone. On to, looks like 1120.
Yep, I move policy 1120, school district records as is for a second reading and adoption.
Second?
And the conversation we had about this was sort of who should be the records officer, the records management officer, and the records, what's the other person here? Can you help me?
Records access.
And the records access officer. We've decided at this point in time to make them the same. And the conversation for me was about sort of who records board votes, but the issue here of this policy is not who records the board's votes, but who has access to the record of the board votes and who holds that record. And so that was the only clarifying phrase we had there.
In your motion included 1120R, the associated
Thank you for reminding me
regulations.
that. I need to get a better list here. Yes. And it's probably one after 1120R, right? 1120. Right. 1120E.1, 1120E.2.
Got it. So we're moving
I
all.
knew that's what you said.
Yes.
It is.
And that's what Pat seconded as well.
Yes.
And the record shall reflect that. So we good with the 1120 series? All in favor? Is everyone? Thanks.
I move policy 1130, news media relations as is for a second reading and adoption.
Second?
And so the conversation we had here was one about the role of the board president in terms of being a spokesperson. No, I'm in the wrong policy. We had no change to this one since the last one. My apologies.
Okay. Okay, I got it. There we are. Okay, good.
My apologies. We did have some conversation about the boards or individual board members' role in posting on blogs and the like. And at one point, we had a conversation, should that also extend to other ICSD faculty and staff? And we decided that we'll deal with that when we get to the faculty and staff portion of the policy book in the 9000 series.
That will be coming shortly.
We'll be coming to a theater near you.
All in favor? If that's...
I missed the whole thing.
Okay. All in favor? That's everyone minus Chris, who was absent. And Seth. And on.
Here we go.
Yep.
I'll move policy 1145, distribution of flyers, advertising materials, and announcement policy as written for a second reading and for adoption.
Second.
We good? Anything, Sean?
No.
Okay. And we passed this before, Judy says. So we shall pass it again. All in favor? That's everyone.
I'll move policy 1230, public participation at board meetings.
Good.
Second. Excellent.
Oh,
I didn't finish my whole second sentence. I apologize. For adoption and for a second reading. There you go.
I did it.
Second by Judy. Only question, we're at 3 minutes, correct, or 2?
Yeah, so the change in this policy would be at the next board meeting that members of the community which sign up to speak will be asked, our sign-up sheet will be slightly different, that they'll be asked to provide their name, their address, and the topic they're going to be speaking to, and they're allowed, each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes, given the board or the board president's discretion.
Good. But our practice will be aligned with our policy that we're going to pass right now. All in favor? That's everyone. So 3 minutes from now on. Very good. You're always pretty liberal on that anyway. But on to the next 1400. So.
I move policy 1400, public complaints policy, as is in for a second reading and for adoption.
second?
I received an email, a quick word about this. I received an email from some folks in a letter asking us to consider renaming this policy from public complaints to something that may not always be framed in a negative. In other words, are there times in which parents or caregivers may be contacting school officials that may not be around complaints? And would it be wise to sort of frame this as something that's not just about complaints, but maybe engagement, maybe sort of communication?
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to respond that way, but I thought we'd bring it to the board and see what the board felt about that.
Public commentary. commentary?
I would leave complaints and say and something.
Either or, either complaints or,
What are you proposing?
Yeah, it could and or whatever. Yeah, then pick your word.
Could I just ask a question, Sean?
By all means.
So, I knew I could, I was just kind of being polite. So,
Yeah, don't let that stop you. You really destroy that.
Thanks for the slap, Pat. It's great.
so my question would be if we change it from public complaints to public statements, or, you know, I think the point to this policy is to differentiate complaints about some aspect of programming, instruction, or staff from public commentary in board meetings. So these are issues that are brought to the attention of the school for resolution rather than brought to the attention of the board. And my question would be, do we need a policy to regulate people calling up the school and saying nice things?
Right, that's a good point. I think part of the question is attached to a larger conversation about parental engagement in our schools. And I believe that some folks are seeing this, since it outlines a procedure of how communication should flow, that this may be a policy that folks go to refer to if they want to have some sort of engagement with either the classroom teacher or the principal. And is it only around notions of complaints? And so part of the way in which this conversation arose through Jason and Matt, if I'm not mistaken, having some meetings with folks at EILC, talking about what happens when a parent wants to contact a teacher, and what's the process? Is there a protocol for how that then gets handled and gets addressed? And so as we set it up right, go to the classroom teacher, then go to the principal, then go to the district level, the super, and then to the board, is sort of how we set it up. And so I'm not sure, I'm in agreement with you that this was specific about complaints, so it may not address that aspect of it, but should we think about having an aspect of it that also deals with sort of just parental engagement or community comment or community engagement?
Something along the lines of public communication with district personnel?
I'd be fine with something like public engagement and complaints. I think leaving complaints in there is necessary, but we can add something so it's not just about complaints, but we don't need to spend terribly long on it. I do think it's an interesting point about the framing of the policy. And we want to be a little bit more proactive than just always being about the negative.
Engagement's good.
Recommendation from the policy committee.
This has been thrown at us all very quickly.
It's also when I think people have time to read the policies by the time we have them posted, so.
we can get,
Right.
yeah.
So quick policy committee members, a quick recommendation. Can we add the word engagement and complaints, public engagement and complaints?
We could add that, but there's nothing in the body of the policy that addresses anything other than complaints. And I think that if we wanted to seriously consider this, I think we would have to pull it out and reword the policy and not just rename the policy, because it's kind of one-sided as a policy.
Or adopt this and come back at another point for 1401. Since that number is reserved.
The gratitude policy.
Engagement.
We don't often hear how wonderful we are, but so.
These can always be revised.
We
can always bring them back.
Our teachers are. We just don't hear about us.
Yeah, well, that's my point.
And this is not about the board. This is to go directly to schools.
Yeah, that's right.
Where the good stuff happens.
Exactly. And Pat, as you say, Pat, I mean, the policy addresses complaints and really nothing else. So, okay.
Come back with a 1401 at some other point.
Well, I was thinking of naming it public comments and having two sections, an A and a B, complaints and
That still requires some work during policy committee.
Yeah.
So maybe at the idea, maybe this is maybe I make a motion to table this policy to the next board meeting. We bring it back there for a second reading.
Sure. Do we need to table?
I'm trying to go off.
Unless you want to hammer it all out right now. Otherwise, we probably have to go back.
I'll second his motion to table.
Yeah, I would support in principle adding a paragraph that would talk about other forms of communication other than complaints.
But you'll have to wordsmith it.
Exactly.
Well,
Not tonight.
nothing we enjoy more.
So motion to table is on the table and has been seconded by Brad. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Danielle's got all this, I'm sure. All in favor of tabling, and we'll bring it back. That's everyone. All right.
I move policy 1420, complaints about curricular instructional materials, and 1420R, which is the regulation.
Yeah. More complaints.
Second.
There was no changes to this policy or the regulation since the last meeting.
Okay. So we're okay with complaints here.
Yep.
Okay, I guess we're good with complaints here. I'm trying to keep it clear, Dr. Brown. Okay. Pat, did you?
Well, this refers to a specific procedure for removing material that someone deems objectionable, so it's not about complaints or saying that something is really good. So I think the complaint is appropriate here.
We do that?
Apparently on occasion.
Okay. All right. So we're just we're trying to we're okay. All in favor? If there's no other comments, that's everyone. So on to Q.
I move policy 1500, public use of school facilities, as is, for a second reading and adoption.
Second.
This was a little bit of conversation for us. The policy in and of itself has not changed from this first reading we had. We did have extensive conversation about the various forms, how to have some forms be consistent. I know we have our clerk and Dr. Brown's assistant, Jenny, are working on these forms, trying to make sure that things like the fee schedule is consistent. And so what we anticipate doing is passing the policy, or the recommendation to pass the policy as is, and have the forms come back to us when they are ready for our review. Not that it would need to be acted upon.
Are you hoping those will be ready in 2 weeks?
I'm hoping those will be ready. I can't answer that, Brett.
I guess I meant that to be, would they please be ready in 2 weeks?
I don't know for sure, but I haven't heard anything that would please that necessarily. True.
It'll be tough for 2 weeks. Just going on the technical end.
And we got people asking because we're holding up some facilities, things over having forms and fees. So we need to move that up somehow.
Well, the issue is that we can still move here, and we have a policy committee meeting, if I'm not mistaken, on Thursday.
Thursday, yes.
Something that we can try to address and see what we can get some clarity on and push a little bit. We know, and also that means having these available, because I can find one of them online, but I can't find any other of them online.
Right. So it just may not be in the optimal format as far as being online and publishable. We can have something ready shortly after Thursday's meeting.
And it also means connecting with Margaret as well to have some sort of conversation about having consistency about, for example, what are the custodial fees, what are the rental fees, those dialogues. And maybe it may be helpful for us to, if those folks want to participate in that meeting, to have that conversation. It's been when we've been batting around for a couple of years now, or at least a year and a half.
We need to get them.
And we need to get it done.
So let me clarify, because we're closer to that. We're ready to roll with that piece. It's just the technical piece is what I was worried about, as far as getting it online and being able to.
But a PDF form.
And the
So we can
fees. So
are we going to be ready for adoption in 2 weeks? Great.
I apologize.
So if we want to wait to do the whole thing at the same time as well, we can table this policy and do it with the forms. We can pass the policy and bring the forms back.
Great. There's no reason not to pass policy tonight. And that was just my questions. Where are the forms being generated, partly in policy, partly with help of business officials, et cetera?
Yes.
Okay. All right. But that's all happening. So we can go ahead and pass the policy, correct? Yeah. If it's the board's discretion. Okay. All in favor? Looks like it is, and that passes.
I move policy 1530, smoking and other tobacco use on school premises, as is, for a second reading and adoption.
I think we've already passed this. Okay. Did you second?
Yeah, she did.
Good.
No changes since the last meeting.
Okay. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not saying anything.
Just tell me.
No, I mean, I was just reading today about Colorado laws, et cetera. So when they do pass marijuana in New York State being legalized, you still can't smoke until if you're under 21,
There will be
right?
no smoking of any kind in any ICSD vehicle.
Right. I mean, right, exactly. So, all right.
But there was that little clip in the Ithaca Times.
Keep it moving.
No, who was the one?
We'll keep it moving. But regardless of what you're smoking, you can't do it around here. Okay, so, all right. All in favor? Well, we're passing it again.
We're in New York, right?
Yeah, we're in New York.
Just checking.
All right, I move policy 1740, relationship with non-public schools, as is for a second reading and adoption.
Second?
And policy 1740, well, I'll wait till we get there. There's no change in this policy currently, as is.
Okay, go ahead.
Though this is one of the policies that oftentimes gets discussed when we're talking about modified athletic participation. So let me speak to that briefly. We already heard from public comment today about some of the conversation that some of us have been having. I had a quick conversation with Ms. LaRoche today as well about the possibility of modified participation. There are a number of things that need to take place. Currently, as New York State law has it, only bona fide students of public institutions can participate in which the school they attend without a merger. The law currently does allow for the possibility of mergers if a team would not be fielded otherwise. I've asked Danielle to connect with not only Section 4, but also with the state to figure out what steps would be taken if that's something we ever decided to go. I also asked her to talk to her coaches to talk about the possible expenses. Danielle indicated to me at this point in time that, as we all know, that our modified programs are pretty well full, and that while we may be talking about only a couple students in a particular given sport, that it may actually have implications for additional coaches, giving coaching to student or coaching to student athlete ratio. And so there is a little bit of research that she's going to be doing and getting back to us. But it does not preclude us from currently passing the policies as are while we investigate the possibility of, one, if the board is going to consider a possible merger, and then two, what are the economic impacts or cost impacts and or other issues that may arise, including talking to other modified coaches and what is available for our young folks to participate in. So that's been the conversation thus far.
Brett.
I mean, what we've done in the past, going back a few years, we've allowed merger and modified sports. We've gone through the section, they've approved, we've done the request from the school, we agree, and what we've done in the past is we've said, so long as we have space and that we're not cutting in that sport and we're not pushing opportunity away from an enrolled student.
A bona fide student.
Yeah, and I'm still comfortable with that, if that's, and leave it to the discretion of the athletic director to make a determination of those items. I'd be okay with that.
I think playing time is what I read in an email that was sent to me. If you add kids, other kids lose playing time. There are, I'm not going to get the numbers right, either 47 or 58 kids in boys modified lacrosse.
So are we, and I don't know whether that means we're going to hear a request from the superintendent for a second modified team shortly. I mean, I don't know whether that's what we did with soccer in the fall when we had that many boys show up, split them into two teams. So I don't know whether that's going to continue to be the case or not.
So that's why we like to leave it up to the athletic officer to
make that determination.
We always try to include as many kids as possible, and especially at the modified level.
No, we can't do it at the JV university. You're not allowed.
No.
You have to merge with another public high school.
Right. Jay.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong, if I follow this, the thinking then might be that we would approve this policy, and I tend to agree with what Brad said, A, of what we've done in the past, and B, that I'm good with it in consideration going forward. But we would have this policy, and then if we ever did allow it, it would be on an exception basis after we confirm there was all those things. Is that what your thinking was?
I would put it right into policy.
You would put it into this policy
I'd put it
that
right into
if,
policy. Leave it to the discretion of the athletic director on modified sports to the extent there's space available, etc. But that's me.
I have a question for Sean on the conversation that you had with Danielle about whether, does it have to be whether each school could field a team without merger? What team could we not field without a merger?
It's funny, I asked that very question, right, that you'd have a hard legal reason to say that we would not be able to field any team, right? So if that's the issue, then that becomes a problem. Yeah, I think that's the way in which the law is written, but it seems to be from some other folks that the idea being if any member institution cannot field a team. So if we're talking about the Montessori school, if they become a dues-paying member of NISHFSV, whatever it is, right? Then the question becomes that rule also applies to them as well. At least that's what I heard back from the folks. I asked Danielle to confirm that. I also asked Danielle to confirm if it was sport by sport, because there's been times in which we've merged with some schools for a particular sport, and so we're trying to gather all that information. So my recommendation would be, if we're asking this, if there's something we want to consider, we messed around trying to toy around with that language for a while, Brad, about the conditions, and it got complex, so we just decided not to do it. But it doesn't mean that's something that, if it's the board's wants and wishes, that we don't revisit again at some point in time.
Well, it sounds like you've still got some information you're gathering on this. I'm going to move we table this particular one. What is it, 17, whatever?
1740.
Thank you. 1740. We table 1740.
Second by Chris. Jay.
I don't think, there's been inquiries and people interested in this policy, but I don't think there is anything imminent, is there, to have to?
We had public comment about it tonight, Jay, before you got here.
And was that to get something done quickly on it?
For fall sports.
For fall sports?
I think the reality is if we're gonna be in place for fall sports, this process we probably should start in the next couple of weeks, because by the time folks figure out Section 4 tells us what we need to do to make this happen, by the time we get things in line, it moves quick.
So,
Pat, go ahead.
yeah, I am relatively new to this discussion because the last mergers occurred 4 or more years ago when the board policy changed. So my question as a point of information is what makes Montessori different than Immaculate Conception, New Roots, Cascadilla School? I mean, why would we be are we going to consider this for all schools or just one schools?
Non-public schools. Charter school is not a non-public school. It's a public school. So that does not fall under here.
But we would have Immaculate, we could possibly.
We've done that too.
Okay.
We've done that too.
Just history, Pat, we did that for Immaculate in the past, but Immaculate did away with its middle school program. So they only go
K to 6.
So it's on and off.
Oh, is it?
With a few kids.
Yeah, some kids have gone through 8th recently.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And the other thing we should bear in mind is the law changed in 2009 as well. So when the board changed its practice, it wasn't just changing its practice, it was changing its practice in response to a new commissioner decision about modified athletics and bona fide public school students, in which we did that. Now, and our legal counsel continues to advise us not to allow participation. We should say that as well. We've contacted our legal team a couple of times, and every time it comes back with the same response, that they recommend that we not allow outside non-bona fide public school students of Ithaca City School District to participate. But there are other ways. There are other things to consider.
And I just would like to hear their rationale presented at a public meeting so that the district is aware of why our legal counsel is telling us.
Whose rationale?
The BS&Ks.
Well,
our legal
they've given it to us once. I'm not sure. Well, we can bring them back again, but I don't know if I'm thinking about the dollar signs going to my head for.
I'm happy to have something read if they, I'm happy to have you encapsulate it, but just saying they're against it. And that actually raises huge red flags for me.
But you should bear in mind, I've also sent everyone on the board our lawyer, John Miller's legal reasoning why this took place. So if you go back and check your email, you will find their explanation of what they tried to indicate. And if folks need me to resend it again, I will happily resend it again.
Typically long narratives from John.
There's a 3 or 4 page email.
Yeah, I would be happy to wade through that. Thank you.
And we'll get there right out to you. But John actually has well-reasoned arguments as John's very good on this state reg. So.
If that could be said, I'd like to get that copy of that too.
Okay. We'll get I do believe there was...
There's a motion to table this.
Was it seconded? Chris seconded. I'm going to go ahead and entertain that motion. All in favor of tabling? We don't have to say to a specific time, but correct?
When you table, it's the next meeting.
Just to be clear, okay, it's the next meeting. All in favor? That's Lisa. Rob, well, it's going to be not you. No, okay. It's everybody. We'll go there. Anyway, all right.
I move policy 1742, charter school student participation in district-sponsored activities.
1741?
Homeschool.
You skipped one.
I did skip one, my apologies. I move policy 1741, homeschool students, as presented for a second reading and adoption.
Second. Necessity.
There's no change here.
Okay. Do we need to change anything?
Nope, not that I'm aware of.
Very good. Any questions? I'm not hearing anything. All in favor? That's everyone.
I move policy 1742, charter school students' participation in district-sponsored activities, as presented for a second reading and adoption.
Second by Chris. Any questions on this? It's like a pretty short policy, actually. Go ahead, Jim.
What would the law allow? I don't think the law allows it, does it?
Allows what, Jay?
Any participation.
Any participation.
They're a separate school.
Yeah, they're a separate school. I mean, we'd have...
It'd be a merger, it'd be another merge situation. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I was just informed, I didn't know this, but New Roots, our charter school actually has an athletics program. And it's fielded 2 athletic teams.
Right.
And is now a member of Section 4.
Right. So like Newfield, they could...
I think they're Class D.
Right, they can merge with Trumansburg to, if some of the kids wanted to play football, they could do what those kids did. Or whatever. Okay.
So this is standard procedure for the state unless you go through the dance.
Right. Yep. And this is quoted directly from the New York State Handbook as well as Ed Law.
Good.
It's the law. All in favor? That's everyone.
We're getting near the end here, folks. I moved policy 1800, gifts from the public, and there is no change since our last one.
I'm not sure why we would be against gifts from the public. I think that's a good thing.
And we should maybe our only conversation were what was the amount of gift that the superintendent can accept on behalf of the district without board approval.
Yep.
And it's currently set at $500.
Even with that, we run all the PTA gifts and IPI and all of those, no matter what their size, we run them through
consideration of accounts
anyway.
Right, you will see those on your board agendas and in the board minutes.
Did anyone second? I'll second.
Pat, second. Any other questions? All in favor? It's everyone.
And lastly, I lied. I move policy 1925, interpreters for hearing impaired students and non-native English-speaking parents.
And its associated forms.
E1 and E2?
Yes. Thank you. I was getting there. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And the change here is that we had conversations with NISBA in that we wanted to be a district that was just not providing translators for hearing impaired students, but also for non-native English speaking parents. And so we've added language to that effect and included that within the policy. So non-native English speaking parents, as well as parents of who are hearing impaired, have the option of having translators paid for by the district at important district meetings. And this has gone through Dr. Bruce Jawo's office.
So it's got to be said.
It's got to be just
there's absolutely
spot
nothing.
on. There's no period missing anywhere, I'm sure.
Because she's, no pressure. From which school was that, Dr. Brown? You stumbled over that, Dr. Brown. I mean, it was just, you really just couldn't come up with it.
Did you see these? Wow.
Oh, okay.
So did we ready?
No, SU, okay.
Do you need my glasses?
No, they look red, not orange. But, Sean, are we good on all three of these?
I'm good.
Yes, I am too.
Are we good? Yep, we're good. And it was seconded, I believe. So all in favor? That's everyone. And policy Z, well, Z policy, something.
Yeah, I can't find the number. It's not on the end of my 1,000 series.
4750?
4750, retention of students, is that the title?
Yes.
I move policy 4750 as presented for second reading and adoption.
It's not, yeah.
Second by Judy. Sean, we've addressed this policy in the past multiple times, it seems. Where are we? Is it ready?
We think the policy's ready. It's gone through, it has been a policy and a little bit of development. Dr. Landau has been instrumental in helping this take place. We've had a number of policy committee meetings. We had invited teachers in to come talk to us, including ITA members. It's a policy we continue to debate whether or not we want or need a retention policy and what we're trying to achieve by that, but we know that we may have this possibility come up this upcoming school year. So the goal was to put a policy in place to continue to have these dialogues about what our elementary school program looks like.
Okay. You seconded, Judy, right? Okay, Judy seconded. Any other questions on retention? Jay, go ahead.
Why not have a policy?
We don't know about why not have a policy. The question becomes, what are we trying to achieve when we retain a student? And
Right.
so we've been having some conversations about if we're really trying to do things differently. Yes, we had a number of interesting dialogues and conversations about what our elementary program looks like currently, and is it going to continue to look that way? And this is part of the conversation about, are we going to be delivering services differently? Are we going to be doing things in a different way? And there's a little bit of debate about whether or not actual retention actually helps a student. That some of the data seems to indicate, and it's not causal, but 50% of all students who retain do not graduate from high school. People say that may actually be a help, that it may be lower if we don't retain them, right? That the number may be lower, but so we're having some dialogues about what is the actual impact of retention. And we're hoping to do some longitudinal data of following students who retained over 3 or 4 years, not just the next year, right? And so can we follow them? So that was part of the conversation.
I understand I think those are good discussions and debates, but anyway, to not have any policy would seem to be real problematic.
Well, it could be, but Jay, some districts have a policy that they don't retain any students. So there is no retention policy. You will not be retained. That's a possibility. I'm not saying we're going to go that route, but that's always a possibility.
But wouldn't that itself be a policy? Our policy is that we do not retain.
Sure.
And I don't mean that as a joke. It's a serious,
That's why
that
policy
would be
committee is the hotspot.
But I agree.
Well, we actually discussed that in policy committee, whether that should be our policy. And our discussion with teachers and administrators indicated that although retention is very, very rare, it is something that is requested, and it's much more often requested by the parent than it is by the teacher. So it seemed practical to have a policy that spells out the procedures and the ultimate decision-making process.
I think we find that it's probably, I don't know if it's much more often, but it does happen that parents request it as well as teachers asking for it as well. And I try to make it known that I'm a person that feels like retention is oftentimes fraught with problems, but doesn't mean that should be the policy of a district. The district should have the flexibility to make those decisions on a case-by-case basis. And that's what we're striving for.
So we are going to have policy. I'm sorry to get lost.
Your second reading and adoption right here.
I think I heard that we didn't have a policy.
No,
Jay, we're having a policy, right?
We're having a policy.
Okay. We're adopting. Okay. But obviously there's greater conversations going on than just...
There's just much of richness that you all are missing at policy committee, so...
Hey, I've been, well, a few times. Yeah, I went a few times. And it is interesting, but obviously lending itself to a much broader discussion throughout the district. And we're going to pass this policy hopefully right now. All in favor? That's everyone. All right.
And on behalf of the policy committee, I'd like to thank you all. We're nearly through the 1,000 series. We'll be there shortly. But
I was going to kind of hope that this was it for the 1,000, but we're not really done yet.
No, and the 2,000 series will be to you next, so be on the lookout.
All right. Good thing we meet all year round. That's a
good thing we meet.
Well, we've doubled up our policy meetings every 2 weeks.
Yeah. And we do have the the modification to the agenda items, item AA here, and we need to deal with that right now. Brad, go ahead.
I'd move to be it resolved that having duly reviewed the record pertaining to the discipline of particular student number 1, the Board of Education hereby sustains the discipline imposed and authorizes and directs the board clerk to prepare written notice to the student's parents of the board's determination for the board president's approval and signature.
Second.
Second by Judy. Brad. And we do not discuss these, so it's really just a vote. So all in favor? That is Judy, Rob, Brad, Pat, and Eldred. Those opposed will be Chris. Abstentions, that's Sean.
No, Jay True.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. Yeah, Jay was not here earlier, so sorry, Jay. And Brad.
I'd like to move, be resolved that having duly reviewed the record pertaining to the discipline of a particular student, number 2, the Board of Education hereby sustains the discipline imposed and authorizes and directs the board clerk to prepare written notice to the student's parents of the board's determination for the board president's approval and signature.
I need a second. Second by Chris. Thank you. All in favor? That is, that's everyone but Jay. Jay is abstaining. Jay is abstaining. And that does it for the modification to the agenda. And really we're at other business. Any other business? I hear there's another policy meeting coming up. Thursday.
And we're still on the
Thursday, April 11th. Anything else by board members? Ithaca High still here. Got anything else that you need to tell us about? Good. LACS is good. A quiet year in Lake Wobegon here. But, so anything else by board members at this point? You can see.
We adjourn.
Very good. Without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you all for a lot of work tonight. And congratulations, Dr. Brown, on another budget that we will take to the voters soon.
Thank you all.
How are you thinking about petitions? You want me to carry some? I'd like to.